Morning, everybody. Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to encompass a lot of what I've been talking about in regards to the last 3.5 years when it comes to cycles. And we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve and the cycle of quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. Now, a lot of people, both seasoned traders, veterans on Wall Street, even individual investors, Main Street USA, sees the problem and they are expecting the Federal Reserve to do one thing, and they have been begging for it. And I'm telling you, it's not coming this time, because this time is different, because we are in a super cycle. And what they want to see is the Federal Reserve start to do what's called quantitative easing. And that happens in a couple different forms. It's always with lower rates. And then sometimes there's some sprinkled in some monetary policy. It increases the money supply and bailouts that come from the Federal Reserve, not the government, but the Federal Reserve. However, throughout history, we have seen that deep quantitative easing cuts, when they make credit available to the masses and at cheap rates, it's always in conjunction with the government. All right, now I'm going to read a story in a second out of Fortune. And it's very important because it's entitled "Economists and Central Bankers Are Rethinking the Quantitative Easing Strategy That Saved the World But Created Bubbles and Distortions." Now, why this is very important is because ever since I started this channel, I said this cycle is different because this is a super cycle. To just go back to the last three, in 2000, we had the popping of a stock bubble. This was because of Federal Reserve and government intervention in markets, but also because of new technologies in internet, all right? That's why it was called the dot-com bubble. When that popped, it gave way to a cycle to take advantage of housing because of the quantitative easing. And then it led to the housing bubble. And now, because of the last, 12, 14 years, we have now created something, and the Federal Reserve has created something called a currency bubble. And most people do not understand it because it doesn't come around very often, and it's the big one. The Federal Reserve has been very clear on telling you that you're going to experience pain, that they need unemployment higher, that rates are going to stay much higher for longer. This is why I've been getting so many people ready. I ran into someone the other day in Truckee, California, part of Ninja Nation, and when he said hi, we shook hands. He asked for a photo. We took, a photo for him, which was super cool. I wish I would have went live with him right then and there, because he said something really important. He said, "You've saved me over $100,000." I said, "How did I do that?" He said, "When the Federal Reserve came out and said we're going to start raising rates, I started videos railing that, begging people, you have to refinance now. If you have a rate that's higher than what they're offering right now, you have to refinance right now." And he said that he ran out and refinanced his home. And he says he's calculated that he's saved over $100,000 because of that move. And he got himself into a 3.5% mortgage rate. And without it, he would have been spending so much more, and he would have been trapped along with so many other millions of Americans in the last 2.5 years. Now, I wish I would have went live with him, because there was a lot more to that conversation I know that could have came out, but I'm always living in the moment, and I want to meet you guys, ladies, and I got to sit down and have some drinks with a couple members of Ninja Nation the other day in the hotel that I'm staying at, and that was really exciting. But I wish I could record this stuff and talk about it and tell your stories, because that's what I want to do. I love all of the feedback that I'm getting. We just did a sit down with a group of 20 students from the real estate course, and to see how many people with massive experience and those with never buying their first house, how excited they are and how they are absolutely crushing it out there. Nobody's wanting to tell you what's coming next. And that's because, honestly, most people don't get it. Thank you so much, Ignace, for the super chat. Because the reason why is most people don't see it. And when I learned about these cycles these economic cycles back in 2008, 2010, that era, it was like being in the matrix for money and watching how central banks deal with things. And now they're telling you straightforward, and they're doing it in a way, and I've done a lot of videos, I don't want to go over it too much, but they tell you exactly what they're going to do based on what the Fed governors say, when they say it, how soon they're coming to an official decision, and then obviously at the end, the Federal Reserve Chairman comes out with the official decision. And they're telling you quantitative easing is not coming. And the reason why is because they want to make you they want to put you in a position where you are so fearful, so scared that you'll do whatever they say and you'll take that digital currency. Now, can you fight that digital currency? You can't. It's coming because they run this money system. Satan runs this world's money system. But when you're ready ahead of time, you're going to take advantage of all the other people that failed to heed the warnings. All right? And I think this is so very, very important that people understand that. Now, that being said, of course, I'm going to put some more discount links, 80% off the real estate crash course. If you want to start learning how to identify cycles and invest in real estate cycles, I can guarantee you this. You'll save 10 times as much as you paid for the course. It's $199 with the 80% off coupon, the link, or you're going to make 100 times that. Because it's going to give you the confidence and the understanding to go out and absolutely dominate it. Now, before I start this story, I'm going to share something vulnerable about me. And I have found so much joy and pleasure in teaching people about these cycles and helping people around the country and the world now. I'm at a crossroads because, you know, the story is if I leave my job, and I've always had a cush job, firefighter, full-time, 23 years full-time, and 25 years in the service total, yeah, you know, I lose everything. And that's the way our system's set up. If you don't put in a certain amount of years, you know, you're out. You know, you get a tiny little check when you're 57, but you don't get your medical benefits and stuff. And I'm constantly battling that, you know, raising a family, and now finding myself in this amazing spot to get to know people like yourself all around the world and be that cheerleader that I lost when I lost my mom that always told me I could do anything. And the reason why I say that, because it sucks to be real in front of people, but it's because you need to know the truth, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there that are going through the same thing. And I've never, ever doubted myself. But I got to be honest with you, the pressure is both thrilling and exhilarating, the getting to meet you and hear your stories, but it's also, it's a lot, you know? And I just want to just give you a quick second to say thank you. So just thank you for everything that you've been doing to support my channel, support my family. I'm just super grateful. And I never want anything for free in life. I always want to put out a solid product and help people. And I want to be known as the guy that made people I want to make 1 million people $1 million. That's my goal. And I'm just grateful. Thank you, God. Now let's get into the story. Everyone, do me a favor, timestamp exactly when the ninja finally got off his high horse and dove into the story. So we're talking about central banks. We're going to be talking about economists. This is out of Fortune. It's entitled, Economists, Central Bankers Are Rethinking the Quantitative Easing Strategy That Saved the World But Created Bubbles and Distortions. Now, just so you know, they all know exactly what quantitative easing does, okay? Central bankers know that when they loosen lending standards and they give money to people that shouldn't get it, right? Remember the days when, type 1 if you remember the days where you used to have to put 20% down on your home. I mean, that was a long time ago, right? It was pre-80s, but that was needed, right? To get land, you needed to put 25% down. But as things get expensive, as rates go lower and people speculate in the markets, assets go up. But they don't go up in relation to wages. They never do. And that's because of the destruction of the purchasing power of your currency, all right? And that's why it's so valuable and so important to know when to get in and when to get out of these cycles. You know, and I'll stop real quick and say, you know, Dave Ramsey talks about, you know, if you were to put X amount, $1,000 in the S&P, and when it was like 1981, it'd be worth $1 million. And if you would have bought gold at the same time, it would only, I don't know what it would be worth now. It's, I don't know, 20 times worth, right? A lot less than the S&P. But the fact of the matter is people lose their lives, suicides are committed, horrible things, marriages are broken up during times of recessions. It's the truth. Right? Nobody talks about that. And let me ask you this. How many people have put in this crowd, and type, you know, 2 if you have, how many people have put $1,000 in the S&P in 1980 and still have it? The fact of the matter is 99.9% of people don't hold on to investments. Like the ones that hold Bitcoin at $1, how many have sold them, right? At $2, $3, $1,000. You know, it's just the facts. And so economists know this. They know how these bubbles are blown up. They're not stupid. It's very rare to get someone like myself trying to teach people these cycles, so that they see that big picture. All that information's been pulled out of your econ books in school. They don't want you knowing this. They want the fact that they can build up an economy and they get super rich during the buildup, and then they get even richer when they slam it down. It doesn't look like their fault, and then they buy up all your homes, they buy your repoed cars, and they flip them. And they do it with their buddies and these, it's sad. All right, here we go. Bloomberg surveyed economists from around the world, and they're pondering lots of things, including the 2% inflation target and higher for longer rates. It says here, after the most aggressive monetary tightening campaign in 4 decades, academics and economic practitioners are running autopsies on what could have prevented the cost of living crisis and how to ensure the same mistakes won't be repeated. Sorry. Let me have a little coffee. Isn't that insane? I think academics, by and large, are a bunch of, are they useful idiots? I'm going to say, I'm not joking. I think 99% of academics are complete tools. They love to puff up their chests and tell you how many degrees they have and how many letters they got behind their name. But really, by and large, unless you're an engineer, an attorney, or a doctor, you really don't need a degree to be successful. Do you agree? Now, our society has made a lot of roadblocks in the wage growth, in the barrier to getting certain jobs, because quite frankly, there's so many people going to college because it's become such a booming business. Because in the 80s, they started, hey, you know what? We could start requiring college degrees and start building really good middle management. And then all companies, the first thing they start doing during crashes, they start cutting middle management because they're too heavy, right? They got too many brainiacs running and screwing up the companies. Well, going back to this cost of living thing, you've got all of these economists that are sitting there going, okay, yeah, maybe. What did cause this run up to cost of living? Well, I'll tell you what, you schmoes. What did it was giving a bunch of people free money, closing them up in their houses, telling them they can't do anything like slaves, and then say, we'll give you a little bit of money so that you can fend off, the creditors. But really, you're not going to do that because we're going to tell you don't got to pay the creditors for a certain amount of time and tell the creditors to stuff it. And then you're going to take that money, you're going to go buy Louis Vuitton bags and stupid things like Nintendo games, whatever, I don't know what they're called, stuff that you shouldn't be having. And you're just going to get fatter on crap, right? And that's exactly it. So they're lying when they're sitting there. We're pondering. Yeah, you're an idiot. If you're trying to if an economist is pondering what the hell caused this thing, they should be fired. Type 3 if you agree with me. So it says here, markets have scrambled to price in higher for longer rates, with new war in the Middle East adding yet more risk to an already uncertain outlook confronting central bankers as they gather for their meetings of a tumult for the upcoming tumultuous year. Well, I'm going to tell you what's going on. You got a war in the Middle East, you've got war in Russia and Ukraine, and then next, China's moving into Taiwan. This was prophesied back in 2006, 2012. It's very easy to figure out, even said it was going to start when Israel was attacked by multiple nations in the month of October, and it was going to happen right after Rosh Hashanah. Almost like it's coming true. Weird, huh? Now, as all this happens, interestingly enough, I've got to go back. The London stock exchanges had a glitch where it caused them to shut down, and it was on the anniversary of the crash of 1987. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. These are signs of things to come. Just like the day that everything crashed in the stock market when Lehman Brothers closed up and the Dow fell 777 points, the opening bell did not work. It malfunctioned. See, there's attacks coming from humans, and there's spiritual attacks right now. Type 5 if you understand this and agree with this. And we need to be ready for these, because when you're ready, a prudent man, it says a wise man sees trouble ahead and moves to avoid it, just pivots. All you got to do is pivot. But then it goes on to say in the book of Proverbs, but a fool runs headlong into it. You know what I'm going to say here. Type 6 if you know a fool, or a lot of fools. The truth is, there are a lot of fools out there, and that's why these bubbles are built up and they pop. And if you are willing to sit back and live like no one today, I got some nice things, but I still drive my Kia with the paint falling off. I've always driven beater cars. I I don't know. Just knowing how much I'm saving, every dollar I save, I make, right? I put it in my pocket. And all the guys at the fire station used to mock me. They used to take quarters and put them out near my old Honda Civic and spread them out around the back of the tailpipe. Like, oh, look, your car's just spitting out money. Because I'm like, and they'd all drive these new trucks that they couldn't afford because they were paying payments, right? It's obvious they couldn't afford them. And I was always driving these old cars, and they would put these quarters out and they'd mock me and laugh, and I'd sit there and laugh. And I remember thinking to myself, as I'm picking them up and putting them in my coin thing in my car, because I'm like, hey, that's free coffee. I'm going, man, if they only knew that they're mocking a millionaire. But it was the truth. And I would tell them nice, I'm like, I do have money. I'm like, this is why I have money, because I live frugally sometimes. Now, there's other times I don't live frugally, okay? I set my life up to where I wouldn't buy a certain item unless I could buy it with a month's pay, all right? Cash. I wouldn't buy another item in my life until I could buy it with a day's pay. And that's how I set up my life. And it really confuses people. Well, that's what these central bankers are getting you ready for right here. See, they're preying on the fools that mock successful people because they don't walk around with a Louis Vuitton bag or, Rolex watches or and I don't know what other people are spending their money on, but my point being is that's what these central bankers know. They're very smart, and they're going to pull the rug out, and they're going to make it look, and this is why this story's here, how central bankers are looking into what caused this bubble, and they're going, weird, I guess it is the whole, what's it called? The quantitative easing. And so all these people are wanting the central bank to blow up these bubbles, but they're not going to blow them up. They're not going to blow it up. They're going to detonate the economy. And that's why you have to be ready for these foreclosures. That's going to be the easiest way for you to become a multimillionaire, is to buy real estate owned or REO properties, or go straight for the foreclosures, or even taking advantage of, because the facts are, like, I know of a friend, I told you this, $750,000 house. He listed it. He listed it too late, and he's now down to $550,000. Beautiful home, but nobody's showing up because they can't afford the mortgages. That's it. Beautiful home. When my wife heard about this, she's like, let's go buy it. I'm like, I have to stand by my convictions. But the fact is, it's a beautiful home. And at there's a certain point in jumping in, I talk about it in the course, when you dive in, and certain ratios that have to be met when it comes to price of the home, the rents, and where the Fed is on their quantitative easing or quantitative tightening cycle. And I know this is what I want to tell you. There is a day where they're going to do quantitative easing, but it's not going to be until well after 90% of the nation is bankrupt and or their credit's destroyed, to where they know the banks will not and cannot give them a loan. And then they're going to come in and they're going to scrape this all up. That's why I started the real estate cycle course. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard not to charge the full $1,000. It should be a $2,000 course, but I want to get it in the hands of everybody. And the fact is, most people don't believe in themselves enough to spend $1,000 or $2,000 on courses. I've done that, and I've reaped massive rewards. So I marked it down, and I put a few more of those discount links below. They're $199. And I know the fact that you don't ever read a book that you borrow. And it's so true. Tyler, thank you for the super chat. I hope you guys are getting this through your mind, because this news article is a piece of propaganda put out by central banks. Okay? All right, check this out. Rethinking target. Oh, here. This is a quote from a Bloomberg economist. A long period of galloping price gains and fears that the last yards back to target could be most painful for workers have reignited the debate about whether central banks should aim for a higher rate of inflation. That's a conversation worth having. But for monetary policymakers, the imperative of retaining credibility means the right time for it is after inflation is back on target, not before. So what is he saying in a nutshell? He's saying there's a lot of people that are going, hey, these higher rates for longer are going to crush the consumer. They're going to crush jobs. They're going to crush so many things. Should we go ahead and just ease up now? And there's a lot of people out there, they're saying, central bankers, they're like, if we let this go, it's going to be obvious that it's our fault. So they wanted to make the inflation not look like their fault, but it is, all right? And they're the ones that ran the federal funds rate down to zero. But then also they want to save face that way, but they also want to reap those rewards of much lower asset prices. All right. Now they're talking about rethinking targets. It says, so long as people believe prices will get back towards 2% inflation, just a straight 2% inflation per year. And what's crazy is how many people out there, type 8, if you know what I'm talking about, do not believe that inflation will ever get back down to 2%. They really believe, they're like, no, this is it. This is the new norm. Things are just going to keep going up. And I listen to people like that and I ask them a simple question. I'm like, where is the extra money to pay for the goods going to come? Well, it's just going to come. I was at a car dealer the other day, and we're looking for a car because one of our companies needs to buy a car because that company makes enough money to where it's getting taxed a lot. And you got to buy a car. Even at these nosebleed prices, it actually still makes sense on paper to buy a car. And I go into the GM dealer and they're like, yeah, it's $8,000 over MSRP. I'm like, okay. I'm like, here's the deal. I know the whole backstory of how many vehicles are in this state. I know there's only 12 of this specific vehicle in the entire state. So you don't have to tell me how rare it is. I know it. And you've got a unicorn here. And they go, yeah. And I'm like, how long has it been on the lot? And they say 3 weeks. And I said, all right, here's the truth. The only reason I'm sitting in front of your dealership test driving this vehicle is because we had to test drive it because it's the unicorn. So we drove a long time. I said, I know you're going to have a hard time getting off the over MSRP rate, but there's no way I'm paying the extra amount. I said, so I'll tell you what, if that thing doesn't sell in a few weeks, shoot me a call. You got the MSRP, I'll pay for it, right? He goes, dude, we'll do it right now. And I'm like, honestly, I know what's good about this for your dealership. And I started breaking it down with the sales manager and the fleet manager. You know, I'm like, this actually brings in, let me guess, how many people have came to drive this? And then they turn around and picked up a gasser. It was a diesel Tahoe. And because I got to get the 6,000 pound over, tax deduction, right? The 147 accelerated, whatever. 174 deduction. Sorry, my mind's spinning. And he goes, you're right. And it's funny because when you break down the truth and they know you know what you're talking about, it's a totally different ball game. And they're like, look, you can have it for MSRP and right now. And I said, just let me look around. We're looking for some other options and all that kind of stuff. But the facts are, nobody's walking in to buy that car. It's been there for 3 weeks. They can't afford it. And they said they're like, the rates we're getting, here we're essentially selling someone a $100,000 car and at 8%. That's insane. And they know it's insane. Well, that's what these economists are saying. They're like, dude, this is breaking the backbone of not only the consumer. And I told them at this dealership, because I'm like, how many dealers you got? And they're like, 12. I'm like, all right. I said, you do realize that your flooring cost is going to put you into bankruptcy. And the looks on their face, so they didn't know what to do. I'm like, you need to start a side hustle. They didn't know who I was, but they need to start a side hustle right now because you're going to get the pink slip. You're going to get the pink slip in the next 4 months. The 10-year bond is going to continue rising. China, Japan, and these other countries are going to keep selling off their treasuries, their dollars. This is a tragedy that's happening. Now, I say it with a smile because I want you guys to crush it. I'm going to crush it. And I don't want to be the only one at the party. I want all of you to be at this party. But economists right now are telling you, right here, as long as people believe that prices will get back towards 2%, and there's a lot of people that just don't think it'll ever happen, central bankers have some leeway in deciding how aggressive they need to be pursuing that goal. So that means if they slam rates, if Jerome Powell pulls a Paul Volcker and just goes, screw it, we're going for it. We're going to nail this thing. And we're going to spike, let's say the Fed funds rate by 100 basis points to really calm it down. The question is, it's going to cause massive ripples through the stock market. Gold, in normal days, when rates go up, gold goes down. It ain't going down right now. You got so many headwinds against the economy, including war. Gold's holding strong. I don't care if it's 1,800 or 1,970 an ounce, right? And so that's what bankers are looking at. They're going, crap. The alternative to Satan's current paper currency is gold. And look at it over there. It's crushing it. They don't want that. They're trying their hardest, right? This is absolutely mind-blowing to me that most people do not understand this. Now, check this out. Oliver Blanchard, a former IMF or International Monetary Fund chief economist, has long argued in favor of raising the inflation target, and former European Central Bank Vice President Victor Constantino has also embraced the idea. But it's a controversial view only possible from a position of credibility, which means central banks would likely have to get inflation back to 2% first. This is why it's controversial. Scientists that study monetary theory and human behavior understand and have written about this before, that it's like just like the frog in a boiling pot of water. 2% is usually the point where nobody gives a crap. They don't care. They don't get it. And as everything goes up 2%, which we all know is over 2%, right? But it's just enough to where people just don't care. It's like the UAW workers right now. They're out there asking for more money. Yeah, you're about to bankrupt the car company in so many different ways. Think about it. Just the amount of people that are off the assembly lines and out of the parts departments, right? You're causing a spot for these car companies. You think, yeah, we're getting them, the big bad companies. Yeah, I get it. They should pay you more, whatever. Be like great companies like small burger chains like In-N-Out, right? Where they pay a lot because they want to retain employees. The fact is they're running on small margins because those CEOs and all those guys, they're still getting paid. And they can run that thing into the ground and start a new company. And we've seen that with GM, where it goes through these massive restructurings and theft cycles. Nothing changes. But if those UAW employees knew, they're like, well, yeah, if all these auto companies pay us more, they're going to charge more for the cars. Who are they going to sell them to? And if they can't sell the cars, we're out of a job. And that's where you're going to see, we're seeing massive layoffs already. Remember, I told you in the beginning of October, all this stuff kicks off. Now we see this war. We've seen more layoffs coming. I've done a handful of videos on those. And more, you're going to see that uphill battle that is attacking the American and worldwide consumer. The only question is, and this is what the famous question everyone asks me, how much do I need, Ninja? How much do I need? I'm like, that's a position of greed. You need to step back from that question and rethink it. You have to think this. If everybody's losing, it's whoever has a little bit to now go out and recapitalize that and turn that into debt that's cash flowing is going to win. But doing it properly, that's another thing that's not sexy on the internet and doesn't sell a whole lot of books. And you know that I'm a big advocate of taking out debt in entities, limited liability corporations, partnerships, LLPs, C Corps, things like that, files and S, and all those. I don't want to talk about corporations. And you do it properly so that if everything goes to crap because of a decision, starting to get sunny out here, that the Federal Reserve does, or a central bank around the world, or your government does, and it crushes your company, that you still walk away unscathed. That's what's important. But hey, that just doesn't sell books. So hey, if you want to take advantage of this, and mass advantage, and have the unheard of advantage over others, and type 10 if you wish you would have known about real estate cycles back in 2006 when I was selling my houses. Honestly, if you would have known about this ahead of time and you would have stopped and for a second and saved some money and liquidated some property or some assets, and then you would have waited and started buying up properties between 2010 and 2012, tell me how much you think you'd be worth right now. Because I'm telling you right now, I'd be well over 100 million. And I'm not saying that to brag, because my past with crypto and with real estate. But if you have that unfair advantage, you're going to absolutely dominate in this. So I put more of those links. 80% off the crash course. It's $199. It's 80% off of $1,000. When they're gone, if it's not $199, it's not on sale. Don't buy it. I want to get this into the hands of the masses until I take it to the next level, and then those prices will go up someday, because I am going to make 1 million people $1 million. All right, with that being said, the Economic Ninja, it's getting sun in my face. I'm out.